MSNBC is now going to join our mothership network, NBC, for a special report on the historic Virgin Galactic space launch. We are anticipating separation in just a few moments.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Willie Geist.
Good morning. I'm Willie Geist in New York. We are coming on the air with the launch of a new era in space travel. 70-year-old British billionaire Richard Branson is aboard his Virgin Galactic ship Unity, about to rocket 50 miles above Earth, where he and 5 crew members will experience a few minutes of weightlessness before returning and landing on a runway in the New Mexico desert. The mission began with Virgin's Unity spaceship hanging below a mothership. It then will be released momentarily to touch the edge of outer space. Branson is making the trip this week, a week and a half ahead of the world's richest man, Jeff Bezos, who plans to do the same on his own Blue Origin ship. NBC's Tom Costello was there when the journey began a short time ago. He is at Spaceport America in New Mexico. Tom, an extraordinary day. What are we seeing right now?
At this very moment, we are right at the point where we expect that Richard Branson's spaceship Unity will detach, will drop from the mothership, from Eve, as the mothership, named after his own mother. We expect that any moment now, at roughly 46,000 to 50,000 feet. We're getting a live view, a live feed from Virgin Galactic. It's their own broadcast production, so we're watching very closely. But at the moment, that feed would suggest that they are still, in fact, attached. It will be any minute. Now, when they do detach, then Branson and the others on board, 5 others on board, including the 2 pilots, will rocket at a very accelerated Mach 3, 2,300 miles per hour, and that's 3.5 Gs, by the way, on their way to that altitude you mentioned. The bottom line here is that they're trying to achieve that goal of 50 miles to 56 miles above the Earth, and that would put them very comfortably in what NASA and the military calls the edge of space, or into space. As you know, there's been kind of a back and forth. Some on the Bezos team have suggested that's not quite high enough for space, that really Bezos' Blue Origin will go to space and Branson won't be. It doesn't really matter. You're going to be at about 3 to 4 minutes of weightlessness. The FAA and NASA acknowledge that it's in fact space. So that's what we're waiting for right now. It all comes down to this right here as we await this moment when it detaches and then rockets there to the edge of space.
Tom, when we talk about what we're about to see as they rocket to the edge of space, we've got a graphic that shows the flight path, and I think the best way to describe it for the layman is like being on a roller coaster at Six Flags. You've got a steep climb, you come over the apogee, and then we're going straight down. What does that feel like for the people on board?
So it's that apogee, it's that curve at the top, right, where you will experience those 3 to 4 minutes of weightlessness. I've had the experience to, in fact, do a weightless flight with these parabolic flights in which you get 20 seconds of weightlessness, more or less. This is going to be 3 to 4 minutes. And each of these astronauts have been assigned a task, these civilian astronauts, assigned a task to perform. Guys, I'm watching it right now. Let's watch this feed right now. A critical moment, I think, is approaching. We are still, they have not yet detached.
Communicating with each other in the vehicles and with the Mission Control Center throughout each check here. These days, more and more systems are becoming automated, especially in aircraft and spacecraft. And what's really exciting about the Virgin Galactic spaceflight system is that our crew truly are hands-on with the piloting throughout the flight.
So, Tom, as we look at this video, you can see the altitude.
To talk about detaching.
I'm sure they are just getting incredibly excited.
Yep, 46,000 feet. That's at about the level where we expect them to detach. You're going to hear the pilots talk about going through a checklist before they drop. They're going to say L10, L9, L8, all the way down to L1, and that's at the point where they, in fact, detach and drop. Now we're just now hearing 5 minutes away from detachment. This has been a little bit of a moving target because we don't have a typical NASA mission control, which is giving us, minute or second by second updates. We're kind of flying by the seat of our pants there, but take a look inside live, inside the spaceship as they prepare to detach. Probably now 4.5 minutes away or so at an altitude in excess of 46,000 feet. Willie?
Yeah, they've reached that cruising altitude they talked about, but they're hitting, as you say, a spot ahead of them. And to orient our viewers, Tom, if you look, that is the mothership Eve. Those are the contrails coming off the back. And attached effectively underneath the ship is the VSS Unity. I note, looking at these live pictures inside the cabin, Tom, how calm everybody looks. Looks like they're catching the shuttle from D.C. to LaGuardia. Really something to watch.
Spectacular view. I just heard them say we've now gone through L4, so that means they've already gone from the number 10 on the checklist down to 4, and now seeking clearance for release. As you can see there at 46,000 feet. So we're literally playing this by ear, guys. None of us have ever seen this before with passengers on board. So we're going to listen in here to Virgin Galactic's narration and Virgin Galactic's mission control here.
Across various departments and disciplines within the company, and they're verifying checks with the crew today every step of the way. All right, and I've just heard from MCC that our L-4 checks are complete. We are roughly 3 minutes out from release at this point. It's getting really exciting. I don't know about you all, but I can feel the anticipation building just watching the screen and looking at their faces. Look at that. They've already got big smiles on. And we have just received clearance for release on time from Mission Control Center. So we are 2 minutes and 30 seconds out.
As we listen in, let's bring in Mike Massimino. He's a former NASA astronaut, the current senior advisor for space programs at the Intrepid Sea, Air and Space Museum in New York. And Ron Garan, also a former NASA astronaut who logged more than 179 days in space over his career. Gentlemen, good morning to you both. It's so great to have you with us. Mike, let me begin with you. As Tom said, this is not something we've seen before, even those of you who have been to orbital space. What do you make of what you've seen so far this morning?
Well, Willie, thanks for having me. It's a pretty exciting day. I think this really marks a time where we've gone from governments going into space to a vehicle that has been designed to bring customers, researchers, tourists, people who want to enjoy the experience into space. So it's a very historic day. A lot of work has gone into this. A lot of work needs to be done during the flight, but it's a very, very exciting day for everyone involved.
Colonel Garan, you've been to the International Space Station a couple times, 4 spacewalks under your belt. What do you imagine these passengers are feeling and going through right now?
Well, it's probably a mixed bag. I mean, there's certainly excitement, but there's also probably some butterflies in there. And I think they all are well aware this is a life-changing moment for them, and hopefully they're savoring it.
And what do you think, Colonel, is the feeling that they're about to experience? This is sort of the calm before the moment when that VSS Unity spacecraft separates from the mothership and begins that rocket ride up to the apogee and then back down. It'll happen very quickly. What is that sensation? There aren't many people on Earth who can speak to it, and you're one of them.
Yeah, I think they're going to experience a lot of G-force with the acceleration. They're going to be going really fast, and they're going to get there really fast, and then they're going to go from being pushed back into their seat from that force to being weightless instantly when the engine kicks off, and that's going to be really exciting because that's the moment where they realize that their dream had just come true, that they're weightless, they're in space, and the most amazing thing is going to be that view out the window when they see the curvature of the Earth. They're going to watch the sky turn from blue to black. They're going to see the thinness of the atmosphere. It's going to be absolutely incredible.
Colonel, we're about to see the separation. Tom Costello, I want to go back to you. We are seconds away from the moment here. Let's watch.
Release, release, release right now.
Rocket motor burn. There's Mach 1 trimming now. Trim complete. Unity is pointed directly up and heading to space. Things are looking great. We are 25 seconds into the burn now, approaching Mach 2. 30 seconds, Mach 2. Everything's looking really good and stable. 40 seconds. 45 seconds. 50 seconds, approaching Mach 3. There's Mach 3. And 60 seconds, and that is a full duration burn, folks. We are headed to space. And the passengers in the back have been cleared to unstrap. Our predicted apogee is 279,000 feet and climbing. The pilots are now unlocking the feather and
so this is it. This is where we should be experiencing, or they should be experiencing, weightlessness for about 3 to 4 minutes. And we expect we're going to have a live shot from within that spaceship. And now they're going to start feathering the wings back so that they can begin the very slow process of re-entering. And as we've said, you know, this is a critical moment as they enjoy those few moments of apogee, of weightlessness.
Feet now and climbing. As soon as we cross the boundary to space, we'll hear a word from our founder, Sir Richard Branson.
Once they cross the boundary to space, Richard Branson will be speaking, and we expect him to make some sort of a major announcement from space. And I'm listening with you to Virgin Mission Control. Lots of applause on the ground here because this is what they have been working on for 17 years, building to this moment. And the hope is that paying passengers will be coming along very soon.
Receiving the audio over the broadcast, but I know Richard is saying something inspirational.
Tom, as we wait for the images from inside the spacecraft of that weightlessness, I think back to the interview you did with Richard Branson where he said, I've been dreaming about this day since I was a kid. When I watched Americans walk on the moon on July 20th, 1969, I started to dream of this moment.
Remember the day, remember where you are.
Yeah, and I think they just said 280,000 feet right now. You know, it's funny, Willie, that's one of my earliest memories. I was 6 years old, and my dad woke me up at 11 o'clock at night and said, don't forget this moment, the astronauts are walking on the moon. Interesting that the same impression, in fact, on Richard Branson was really, I think, everybody who was watching from planet Earth on that day. And now this is the culmination of his dreams of now taking his own space flight, not to the space station, not to the moon, but to an altitude of 56 miles. Here we go. We got some images from inside.
There are the pictures.
And again, we're waiting to hear what Richard Branson has to say. We've been led to believe some sort of a major announcement, assuming the technology works and it can get the live shot out of there.
Re-entry portion of our flight now, and the mission.
Tom, we've been using the term feathering here.
Okay, they're heading
as Unity climbs and lands. What does that mean exactly? What are we watching here?
Natural and intuitive for passengers.
Well, the bottom line here is that they have folded those, you know, I may even defer to the expert in terms of Mike, because you've got a fellow pilot right there and an astronaut in terms of how this works, because it's a delicate procedure as they feather the wings back for re-entry.
Shockwaves form on top of the cabin, which are audible.
Mike Massimino, what does that mean exactly to feather as they return here and land shortly on a runway in New Mexico?
Yeah, it's really interesting technology that they're using here. They're kind of combining the aspects of a capsule reentry, which is fairly safe, so they can feather those the wings so that they kind of form in line with the spacecraft, so that it can enter and take the heat of reentry in the best way, and then they can deploy them again for the landing. So it's kind of combining what we've seen before with a capsule entry, along with like a space shuttle or glider landing on a runway. So pretty innovative and a cool way to do it.
Colonel Garan, you flew F-16s in the United States Air Force.
Yeah, I did, and you know, Mike really explained that well. The whole tail boom changes in configuration, so they're getting the best of both worlds, the best of the aerodynamics of a capsule and the aerodynamics of an aircraft.
Tom, go ahead, jump in.
Pardon me, I was just going to make the point, yeah, this is essentially a glider coming back, not unlike the space shuttle. So they've got a massive runway here in New Mexico that they can come right back to. Not much in the way of a go-around opportunity here, so they got to come in and hit the landing right on the money. As we've said before, they've got a veteran chief pilot who's in charge, Dave McKay, a veteran of the Royal Air Force, and he's been a Virgin test pilot for years. Really a spectacular view, and look at that, the curvature of the Earth, which your guests have seen firsthand, but now typical Americans, Virgin employees, but typical Americans have been able to see this as well, experience it firsthand, and that's really the point here. And now we're told that the wings are, in fact, locked. So now, in fact, it is a glider inbound in the glider formation and allowing them to come right into the runway here at Spaceport America. About 30 miles or so from Truth or Consequences, we should tell you.
Passengers have taken their seats again. They're strapped in. Let's bring in Stephanie Rule, NBC News senior business correspondent, looking at this space race among billionaires. Steph, this is a man, Richard Branson, who tried to circle the globe in a hot air balloon. That was an ill-fated trip. Crossed the Atlantic once and not twice, but got there on his second trip, crossing the Atlantic. This, I guess, the next frontier for Richard Branson.
Without a doubt, Willie, he's broken records for kiteboarding. Richard Branson is a true daredevil. But whether you're talking about Richard Branson or Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, think about these billionaires who are going after this space, the final frontier. They've achieved all sorts of success, betting on themselves and their own brands. If there's one thing Richard Branson is absolutely known for and fantastic at, it's branding. And look at today. You saw that launch, boom, Virgin Galactic. We're watching this on his own network. And this really is going to be the first push into commercial space travel. And if that's where we're going, there will be room for a Jeff Bezos or Richard Branson. So you mentioned it earlier, sort of this bickering. Is Richard Branson actually making it into space? The Blue Origin team says no, they aren't. But from a global perspective, for the millions of people, Willie, who are home watching this, he is absolutely in outer space. And Richard Branson is pursuing and fulfilling his dream to be the first one out there.
Yeah, Steph, there was a picture, by the way, posted this morning by Richard Branson having breakfast with none other than Elon Musk before he left to take his flight. Steph, the question we were debating earlier on Sunday today is this really another step forward? Is this the step toward commercial space travel, which so far at this moment goes for $250,000 a pop for a seat on one of these spacecrafts? Are they bringing this to the people, or are these just sort of joy rides for these billionaires?
Well, the plan is to bring this to the people, but let's think about what people. It's the richest of the rich people. And you and I also know, Willie, over the last 10 years, the richest people in the world have gotten a whole lot richer, so they can certainly afford it. And these guys are now betting on themselves and their space.
Steph, I'm going to interrupt you. Richard Branson speaking. Let's listen.
And now I'm looking down at a beautiful spaceport. Congratulations to everybody for creating such a beautiful, beautiful place. Congratulations to all our wonderful team at Virgin Galactic for 17 years of hard work to get us this far.
All right, so I'm so
Richard Branson saying space is a beautiful place, thanking everyone who made that mission possible, admiring the view outside of VSS Unity. Steph, I'll let you pick it back up.
We are so excited for them to land.
You know, luxury and extreme travel is what Richard Branson does by profession. Without a doubt, the goal here is how do we now move this into commercial, obviously very high-end travel. If this trip is successful and Jeff Bezos' mission is successful, clearly both of them would like to make the next venture to be in making this a commercial mission. For Richard Branson, his mission is publicly funded. He's got all sorts of partners here. Jeff Bezos, this has definitely been privately funded. And the question for the richest of the rich adventurers out there, if both become available, what do they want to do? Branson's effort, more of a plane, where Jeff Bezos is truly that rocket experience. But when you say, are they going to bring it to the people, it's a small, small, small sliver of the richest, most adventurous people.
Yeah, at $250,000 a pop, that's a pretty small sliver for now, but they hope sometime down the road to change that. Tom Costello, as we approach altitudes now that we humans can relate to at 19,000 feet, what happens next with Virgin Galactic?
Just a few minutes ago, we had the twin sonic booms here on the ground in New Mexico as they come back in now in glider formation. And we expect them to be on the ground within just a few minutes. You can imagine if you're coming in, you know, in a 737, and you can think about your glide slope into the local airport, this is going to be a lot faster than that. So we expect them to be on the ground quicker than you would be if you were in a 737. But this is all what they wanted to prove today, that this technology is here, it's now. It's not only for the Justin Biebers and the Tom Hanks and the Lady Gagas of the world who've spent a lot of money buying these tickets at $250,000, as you suggested, 700 tickets already. But in fact, this is going to be accessible for everybody eventually. At least that's their hope as they bring down the price. I would also tell you that we've now got 7 Land Rovers out there on the tarmac standing by. We've got the fire equipment standing by. That's typical. That's not to suggest there's anything wrong. That's what happens when you have a test vehicle, a test plane, or a spaceship coming in. The fire department is standing by. By the way, a fire department dedicated only to the spaceport, so they don't get a lot of action. I mean, this is kind of their sole customer right now. But a spectacular view as they now come into Spaceport America. Remember that name, Willie. You've been saying it this morning, but this is going to be a name and something we're going to be hearing about increasingly over the coming years as this becomes more and more of a common occurrence. And just hearing the voice here on the ground saying that it's right in front of the sun, which is right overhead of us. I don't see it, but you're getting a better view yourself on the TV with those long-range telescopic lenses.
Yeah. Mike Massimino, we're down to about 11,000 feet of altitude, 243 miles per hour right now.
Hey, Willie,
what does that...
Yeah.
You see it? You have eyes on it, Tom?
Willie,
what does
I
it look
see him.
like?
He's right over the top of us, Willie, right over the top. And it would, if you didn't know better, you'd think you're looking at just a typical passenger plane with a contrail behind it, just flying right over the top of the spaceport as it comes around and prepares for landing. By the way, we should also make the point that they had a spotter plane, if you will, a chase plane take off shortly after they lifted off an hour ago. Presumably that same chase plane would be on the ground. And by the way, we now see the mothership. Yeah, I think we see Unity in the lead here and the mothership trailing it, it would look like. Which I guess makes sense, right? They're coming in a heck of a lot faster than the mothership can. So it looks like Unity, the spaceship, has the lead as it now approaches the landing strip here on the ground. Looks like it's making a big arc and it's about to come on in for a landing. Gears down and locked, they say. Boy, it's moving fast. It is really buzzing along.
Mike Massimino, what does it feel like on the human body to go through what that crew of 6 just went through? 2 pilots, 4 passengers. As we see those internal cameras, all smiles. It appears everybody's doing well. What does it feel like, though, on your body to go through that?
Well, they're feeling great right now, just out of pure joy, I would imagine. But they've gone through some different experience. You know, they were on 1 gravity. They probably pulled some G's going up to space. They were weightless for a while, so you're floating there, and your vestibular system is now floating as well, so your sense of motion is a little bit distorted. And then you come back down, and the G-forces build up again. So that's what's happened to them, but I think all of that is overridden by just pure joy of and exhilaration of what they went through. They had jobs to do, they needed to do that, but I think there's just the excitement and the happiness that they're experiencing right now is the overriding feeling.
And Tom Costello, it looks like we have a clean, safe touchdown and landing on that runway.
Could not be more perfect here on this beautiful day in New Mexico, and it went just perfectly according to plan. The only delay was it left an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes late because we had winds on the ground. That kind of delayed the fueling this morning. Other than that, this could not have gone any better. It seems to have just gone flawlessly from the moment that they lifted off all the way through, lighting the rocket, accelerating to 56 miles or so above the Earth. I'll be interested to see what the number is. What number did they hit? You know, 56 or 50 miles above the Earth. And as we've said many times, NASA and the Pentagon and the FAA recognize 50 miles as, in fact, the edge of space. Full stop on the runway here at Spaceport America.
What an extraordinary moment. And Colonel Garan, let's talk about what happens from here. We know next week Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin get their turn in a very different ship, a rocket. We know that Elon Musk, of course, and SpaceX are working on their own orbital spacecraft. What does this moment, what does this day, what does next week put together? What do they mean for the possibilities in the future?
Yeah, I think this historic moment and the historic moments to come are the first baby steps, if you will, to opening up space for everyone. And you know, Stephanie talked about how right now it's just the billionaires, but it's reminiscent of the early days of aviation, where it was a very rare occurrence that somebody flew in an airplane. And I think we're right at the verge or the dawn of a new era of space travel, where flying on a spaceship will become as commonplace as flying on an airplane. And I think, and not just into orbit, but from point A to point B on the planet, where during that flight you are up above the atmosphere. And so I think this is a historic moment, and I think all these steps are leading to that. You know, when you bring in reusability, economies of scale, I think we're going to see those prices come down, and it's going to be more feasible for more people.
The possibilities are thrilling. Colonel Ron Garan, Mike Massimino, Stephanie Rule, and Tom Costello on the ground for us in New Mexico. An exciting morning. Thank you all for being with us. This has been NBC's special coverage of the Virgin Galactic space flight. The coverage continues on MSNBC with more tonight on NBC Nightly News. I'm Willie Geist in New York.
Nose-ear touchdown.
And as Willie said, we're back. I'm Ali Velshi. You've been watching NBC News special report on the historic Virgin Galactic launch and now touchdown.